evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the TinFoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? Welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. And guys, we got a fantastic show for you tonight. But first, I want to give a quick little shout out, because starting next Monday, our very own Ryan Stacy, his podcast will be airing at 5 o'clock on Monday. Next Monday, under our new network, under the new paranormal network that Beyond the TinFoil Hat is going to be under. You could check out Ryan Stacy's podcast Monday at 5 o'clock called The Skeptical Sleuth. All right. And this is where Ryan's going to be making talking about, maybe criticizing, being a little skeptical on some of these topics, but he'll definitely get down to the juicy stuff. So you want to check that out next Monday at 5 o'clock, The Skeptical Sleuth with Ryan Stacy. Then the next day, Tuesday, 6 p.m., Beyond the TinFoil Hat will be airing. So 6 p.m. next Tuesday. All right. So check us out, Beyond the TinFoil Hat. And then Monday, 5 o'clock, check out The Skeptical Sleuth. Okay. Also, if you guys have not done so yet, head over to Patreon, Heed the World -Patreon. All right. And check us out. Give a little donation, a little something goes towards your podcast. Everything helps. And in return, you get to check out some really cool stories and some investigations by Ryan. Definitely worth it. Only like $4. Totally worth it. Check it out. All right, guys. Tonight's guest is a very interesting one. She's an investigative author and a documentary filmmaker who has traveled the world exploring a variety of topics, okay, including the mysterious world of UFOs, okay? She has went in depth on the Billy Meier case and the wave of UFO sightings in Mexico. So, guys, let's give a big Beyond the TinFoil Hat welcome for Brit Elders.
Hello.
How are you doing, Brit?
I'm doing well, Danny. How about you?
Doing good, and welcome to Beyond the TinFoil Hat. This is exciting.
Thank you.
I tell you what, if you don't mind, though, do you care to let our viewers know a little more about you?
Sure. I'm basically a writer. I love to write, have been writing since I was a kid. Completed my first novel when I was in 8th grade, and decided at that point I didn't like nonfiction or fiction, so I went totally into nonfiction and became an investigator at that point. My husband and I have had a real investigation company. We had an electronic countermeasure company that dealt with keeping Fortune 500s and banks, financial institutions free of wiretapping and eavesdropping. And we did a lot of great work. We were working with some wonderful companies all around the world. And oddly enough, that's what led us into UFOs.
So, okay, was there a situation or experience as far as that kind of got you guys there? Did you see something?
No, a friend of ours, those companies were really uptight. This is back in the 70s. Nobody wanted to talk about UFOs or anything like that at that point in time. Betty and Barney Hill was still fresh in the minds of people. the whole concept of abduction was kind of scary to everyone. Travis Walton had just had an experience, and his was again rather scary to a lot of people. A friend of ours, a retired Air Force colonel, brought us some photographs and said, "This case is amazing." Well, we took a look at the photographs and went, "Too good to be true. They're too clear, too perfect." And we said, "Nope, you're on your own." So he went to Switzerland. He met with this individual that had taken the photographs. He came back and he said, "You got to get your company behind this." We had a business thing happening in London. We went over, did that, decided to go into Switzerland to meet this man, Billy Meier. We thought within a day or two we'd figure out how he was doing it, and we'd come home having solved the mystery. We got there, we were there 5 days. We talked to Meier constantly. Before we left, he gave us photographs, movie footage, sound recordings of the craft, metal samples of the craft, and we had interviewed dozens of witnesses at that point. Wow. So that's what got us into UFOs. Once you get into it, you never get out of it. Yeah, it's in your blood.
Well, I mean, especially, I mean, not only you just didn't get somebody, you know, hey, I saw a UFO. I mean, you got presented some hardcore evidence of something.
Right.
And what year was this again, Brit?
We went over and met Meier in 1977.
In 1977. So
yeah.
You saw this and you thought this was just too good to be true. There's no way. And then, so, I mean, beforehand, but before you saw these pictures, you were definitely a skeptic. You were definitely a non-believer in these kind of things.
My husband more so than I, because my father was literally a rocket engineer. He worked with von Braun on the early missile systems, and he would come home and they'd be sitting around, he and his buddies, talking about what was flying when they were trying to launch their missiles, and what the hell did they think that was, and why was it there, and it wasn't ours. So I had that kind of openness, that the curiosity that these engineers had, because when you hear it as a kid, you just sort of think, oh, that's normal, I guess, and you go on about life. So I wasn't quite so skeptical, but Lee definitely was. And so I was more open. I enjoyed the conversations we were having with Meier, but when it came to bringing out physical evidence, my left brain kicked in and said, okay, we got to really dig into this and see what we can find out.
So with those pictures, and I mean, so do you think was it something, do you think it was alien, or do you think maybe it was, you do?
Yes. Let me tell you why. I'll just take the segments of evidence and run it through some of the steps we went to. With the photographs, we took them to Michael Malin down at U of A, University of Arizona. And he went through them and he pixelated everything. He had it all digitized. From there, it went into other laboratories. We didn't stop there. We went to places that could tell us the approximate size, which was about 21 feet in diameter. So that's a pretty massive model. And it was based on triangulation of the ship itself versus the trees, which we had known measurements on, how far away from the camera they were, and how tall they were. So we could triangulate the size of this thing. It couldn't have been a model 21 feet. You would have had to have had a crane suspending it. So that was one aspect. Then we ended up taking it to places like Scripps, took it to Eric Eliason at USGS, who is in charge of the Mars mapping project. Took it to Robert Post, who is the head of JPL's photo lab. All of them came back and said, we don't believe in contact. We don't believe in UFOs. We can't tell you what this is, and we can't duplicate it. So what do you do with that? You know, it's one of those things that, all right, they can't duplicate it, and they are masters at their field. We decided to take it one step further, and we contacted Wally Gentleman. Wally had done the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey for Kubrick. He was well known, had won all kinds of awards for his work. And we said, build us a model so we can suspend it from a line, photograph it, film it, and run it back through the same process and let's see what we get. He did, and we did. We actually got a pole and a line and hung this beautiful model, looked just like one of Meier's ships, ran it back through. You could see the monofilament line that suspended it. You could see that the edges weren't wide enough to make it more than just about a foot, 8 inches to a foot in diameter. That was it. It did not pass the smell test any way we went. So we went on then to the movie footage. And the movie footage was interesting because Meier actually had a segment of movie footage where the craft is hovering in the sky and beneath it cars are driving on the highway. So
Wow.
we had, again, known objects and unknown objects. So we could correlate. It was 8 millimeter footage. It couldn't have been messed with, not like you can video. And back then, we didn't have any photogrammetric programs.
It was extremely difficult. I mean, I
Right.
couldn't even imagine, and also extremely expensive to the means that you would have to do to make it. When you look at like the first Star Wars film and stuff, you
Mm-hmm.
would have to really go out there to
Right. But
so
industrial light and magic was just getting started,
true.
back in the 70s, in the mid 70s. We didn't have cameras that took pictures. I mean, Billy used an old 35 millimeter that he could operate with one hand because he had lost an arm in a bus accident. So all of this kind of added up and added up. Then we went to the sound recordings, and the audio engineers that we brought in were amazed. They said that there were so many frequencies, and they would just be screeching literally out there, and then they would converge into one frequency and then back out into multiple frequencies. We had a man that worked in Groton, Connecticut at a naval facility where they had all of the sounds ever recorded stored. He could not find a comparable sound. So we went to more engineers and said, what are you hearing? And they're saying, oh, it's resonating to the Schumann resonance of the earth. Oh, no, it's changing. And it was all back and forth. They could not explain it. They couldn't duplicate it. They couldn't figure out what it was worth, especially when they started really analyzing through the oscilloscopes what was happening. They thought had something to do with propulsion, but they weren't sure. And nobody knows. I mean, it's just one of those things we can only speculate about. Then we got into the metal, and this was fascinating to almost every scientist that looked at it. We took it to Marcel Vogel at IBM. Marcel had patents and all of this other work behind him. He was quite a metallurgist, and through a scanning electron microscope, he saw that the metal had a pure piece of metal and then crystalline structure, and then a pure piece of metal. It had not been heated and poured in the typical way that we mold metal today. It was done with a cold fusion process. And that fascinated him. And it had all these biorefringent materials in it. Plus, it had something that was very unique, thulium, which is a rare earth element, very costly to extract, very rare on the earth, hard to find. How would Meier know to put that into a hunk of metal? So, I mean, that's just the evidence in a nutshell that
Oh,
was so fascinating to us that it just took us 7 years to get through that because
so
there was so much there.
did this make your husband a believer?
It
He said,
did. It did. I think the thing that got him most was the metal samples because Vogel brought in 42 other scientists from all over the place to sit down and go through his findings and then check it out, make certain he had done things properly. None of them could duplicate it.
well, to me, first of all, I love the way that you guys did approach that with an skeptic point of view, and you did, intense research to,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's kind of hard. Like, a lot of people say, well, why would anybody lie about this? Well, human beings are giant pieces of crap. They lie about everything. Who knows why human beings lie about half the crap they do.
Right.
But so a lot of times when I do see something too, I look at it and skepticize,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, well, how would I do that myself if I was to do this? But the thing that just intrigues me more than anything is the amount of evidence we have, and the amount of similar stories that we continuously get. And it's so it gets to a point where you just can't ignore that.
That's right.
And so, but now so this incident here, this was the main incident that got you guys running with what you do.
Absolutely. Like I said, it took 7 years to get through this investigation, and it was very costly, very time consuming. Our company suffered from it because we wanted to find answers. But every time we found an answer, 50 more questions would pop up. So we were constantly, what else can we do? What can we learn? How can we move forward?
Well, speaking of questions, bump, 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 bump. Our very own Liv Light is in the house. And Liv always comes with the real deal questions, Brit. All right.
Okay.
So here we go. Hi, Brit. Did you handle the metal pieces yourself? How big were they? And did you observe anything unusual about the metal?
Yes. And I'll tell you how big they were. And yes. Yes, we did handle them with gloves, did not want to touch them, did not want to contaminate them with human oils or anything like that. When Billy brought them out to us, he brought a pink, tattered, dusty shoebox out, and in it was, do you remember the old 35 millimeter canisters that
Oh,
held the
yeah.
film? Yeah, that's what he was keeping the metal in. So he opened it up, poured it in the lid, showed it to us. We went, oops, put it back. Put it back in, and we brought it home. But when it was handled with people that had gloves on, and usually using forceps to hold it so that it wasn't, contaminated anyway. The size of it was there were 4 specimens we got. The biggest was about the size of a pencil eraser, the eraser on the end of a pencil. The smallest were little granules. The interesting thing about those granules, and they look like, super small BBs. But the interesting thing about them was that we were filming with the Japanese film crew, and we poured them out of the canister. Not all of them, thank goodness, but they started breaking apart when the lights from the Japanese crew hit them. The light was so intense and hot, just started breaking apart.
Wow.
We still, to this day, do not know why that happened. And it has been replicated once. We do know it can happen, but we don't want to take the chance of losing that piece of metal. So, yeah. But we had various different sizes. The largest was the size of a pencil eraser, and then the small were these little tiny pellets,
That
maybe
is
about
so
the
super
size of
cool.
a homeopathic pellet.
Now,
Yeah.
why do you think Billy came forth with this? Why do you think he?
It wasn't to better his life, which I've heard a lot of people say, because the man had assassination attempts.
Yeah.
His daughter was threatened, and some people tried to kidnap her. He was basically ostracized from polite society. I hate to use air quotes, but I had to there.
Mhm.
Um, he went through hell. I mean, when we met Billy, he's a very simple, humble man. He's a farmer. He's a man of earth, and he's a very earthy person. He had traveled through the Middle East and Europe, so he was worldly, but he was not educated like we think of an education. He didn't really, he wanted to share his information, but he didn't want to be the focal point of it because he was told by the Pleiadians, who gave him all of this stuff, that his job was to present it to the world so we, the earth humans, would realize we're not the only thinking beings in space, in the
You know
universe.
what I wonder, Brett? Here's the thing, okay?
Yeah.
I totally get that. I don't see why anybody, like, there's a lot of guys like him that have come forward with evidence that aren't big blabbermouths like me. Why don't y'all show me something? Give me something. I'll tell everybody. I don't shut up, you know. But it's a lot of times it is these guys are like, hey, I don't really want the limelight, but damn, I got to tell somebody about this.
Right.
I mean, I can name a lot, which makes you wonder. It's like, these guys don't seem like they're fame chasers. They don't seem like they're attention seekers.
Right.
So you think the motivation here is something that must it just may be like a heavy weight burden that they're carrying around. I couldn't imagine if I had like actual real evidence that there's other life out there that's visiting our planet, and I'm not telling anybody. That's just, to me, that sounds like just super important information.
Exactly. And I think people that have this type of experience that Billy has had, they feel a responsibility to share it. And I would. I mean, if I had an experience like that, I would also be hesitant knowing what he's gone through and what others have gone through. But it's something you do have a responsibility to get out there to the world so they know what's going on.
So do you think now earlier you said, what did you say just a moment ago? You said the Pleiadians? Is that what you said?
Pleiadians, yes.
Pleiadians.
From the star cluster of the Pleiades.
Okay, well, tell us about that. I want to know. Let's hear about the Pleiadians.
The star cluster from the Pleiades are about 500 light years from Earth. It's a beautiful little sparkly cluster. It's chased across the sky by Orion's belt. And at midnight on November 17th, you can look straight up and they're right above you. The Pleiades system itself probably wouldn't support life without being engineered. The Pleiadians, the people from the Pleiades that talked to Billy, told him that their original home planet was in the system of Lyra, and that they had a lot of conflict on their planet, much as we have, and that they destroyed the planet. And in that process, many escaped and went to other places and engineered new homelands, new planets where they could live. But they had to engineer the oxygen content. They had to engineer the water, everything, before they could actually live there. So that's kind of the Pleiades in a nutshell. Yeah.
So they need oxygen and water just like we do.
They are physical beings and look very much like us. The one that he met first was named Semyasa. She had long blonde hair. She had blue eyes, very fair, almost a translucent quality to her skin. Wore a one-piece jumpsuit. Came out from the craft. They sat down in a field in Switzerland under a tree and talked for a couple of hours. That was the initial contact. Yeah.
So this is where it's just, I mean, you know where I'm saying. I mean, it's just so.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. So, I mean, I've heard different stories. I've heard the stories, or the people say there's several different types of races, and types of aliens that have come here and visit us. Why, though, out of all of them, is it not common? We're not just walking around amongst living with each other.
Yeah. That's a really good question that I don't have a good answer to. I do know that the Pleiadians told Billy they can only be around people of Earth for a limited amount of time.
Me too. I totally understand that.
Then you'll understand this. They say humans have auric stench. In other words, our vibrational fields are so cluttered with garbage and, anger and frustration and hatred and all of that, we make them ill.
Gosh.
So if they do come to Earth, they can only be here for a limited period of time with people because it just makes them too sick. Billy says they turn around in their head,
Well, we all know people like that too. Like,
That's right.
Like, I know people that I can only check in on once a month because I love them, but then it's like, okay, it's been 10 minutes, I'm done.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well that makes sense. We stink. We stink
Yeah,
to the rest of the universe.
our energy field stinks. Yes.
Gosh, we're
Hmm.
awful. Gosh, that's okay. Well, so after Billy case,
Uh-huh.
did that set like a bug off? What did you guys? What was your next move?
Yeah, we were involved in some other cases around the world. We started doing a lot of research into the history of various cultures around the globe that tie into the Pleiades. We got very involved in the 90s with Jaime Maussan in Mexico and what was going on down there. It was remarkable down there because it was a daily thing. People would be seeing UFOs and filming them. This was starting the very beginning of the 90s, still
Well,
going on today.
tell us about him. What exactly was happening?
Jaime Maussan is an investigative journalist. He used to be the host of 60 Minutes in Mexico. He was
Okay.
the editor general. He's a true journalist. He called us one time and he said, "You've got to get down here." And we went down and were amazed. We have to date well over 10,000 videos from Mexico of these anomalous objects in the sky. Can't be defined, do strange things, loop de loop around each other, right angle turns. So many people have seen them. They make front page headlines. Front page headlines when they are seen. They're on the news. People are talking about them. We don't hear anything about it up here. But down there, it's accepted. They go have parties on hills and wait for the UFOs to come in. It's quite amazing. It's a whole different attitude.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's crazy how that news never makes it up here, and we never hear anything.
that's
And
right.
I've heard skeptics say, "Well, why is it only in America where UFO?" And that's not true, dude. They're all over the world.
Yeah.
It
South
just
America, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I mean, what's
Gosh,
gone
South
on in
America is like,
Brazil,
I mean, a
it's a
lot of
hotbed.
activity.
Yeah, always has been. And they have a historical connection, much as the American Indians do, to various star systems. And they consider them their star brothers. They're not afraid of them. They're curious about them, but their history and their lore talks about them and how these beings came from the stars and helped them, gave them tips on how to farm or build an observatory, things like that.
Isn't it actually? Now, I may be totally wrong here, but is it Peru? Where is it to where it literally looks like they made a runway from the sky? I believe that isn't
Are you
that South
talking about
America?
the Nazca lines?
I believe so. I believe
Yeah,
so.
they're amazing. There are so many things, and really, even though a lot of scientists are now trying to debate, well, we could have done it from the ground had we done this and this and this. The easiest way to make those lines perfect and those images perfect, like the thunderbird and the hummingbird, things like that, is from above,
Yeah.
looking down. So yeah, we just have to make things difficult. That's all.
And that's the other thing, you have to be careful when you debunk, okay? Because
Yeah,
sometimes they get confirmation bias, people do, and you
yeah,
go beyond. You're like, well, if I do this, eventually I can get my answer that I want.
that's true.
So, and I mean, and that does happen sometimes,
Hmm.
unfortunately, now I'm all for the scientific method, 100%. I do, I believe in it, but at the same time, it's the operator error sometimes,
Yeah,
and sometimes the most reasonable excuse is like, hey, maybe we don't know. Maybe we don't know everything. So
I think that that's very, very important to understand because we have such an arrogant opinion of ourselves that we are so perfect and we're the only ones here and we know it all. And we don't. We're babes in the woods just trying to understand what on earth is going on.
I always use the metaphor, like I was like, existence is basically you. Now, this is going to go left field for a second, and I apologize.
Okay. No,
but it's like a Saw movie. You ever seen the crazy horror movie Saw?
no, I missed that one.
Well, okay, all right. Well, some idiot wakes up in a room chained to the wall, and there's a recording. We're going to play a little game. He doesn't know where the hell he's at or what's going on, but he has to figure it out to get the hell out of there. That's existence in a nutshell. We don't know anything. We just, hey, this is, how did we get here? We really don't know. We're just here.
Mhm.
So but then we just, we kind of make crap up as we go,
Mhm.
based off, what we can see, and, no one knows. So,
Right. But we learn a little at a
oh yeah,
time.
yeah.
And we keep progressing, and that's what we have to do. We've got to keep progressing and keep thinking and moving forward in our thought and our actions, and we got to get over our arrogance, because we probably are not the only thinking beings in the universe, despite what we seem to think we are. And it's important to realize that, because we're talking about, in the very near future, sending spacecraft to Mars
Oh
and
yeah.
then going further into the universe. What happens when we got out there and we find there's all kinds of different individuals, just like we are here, different. They're all out there too. Yeah.
I mean, I think some people, I think, they're more comfortable thinking we're the only ones, or they've got it
Mhm.
all figured out. And because one thing, human beings, we don't like to not be in control,
Right.
ultimately. And and to think that there could be something else coming here that, it scares them. It scares people a little bit.
Sure.
So, I mean, at this point, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare me at all. I find it interesting. Heck, I mean, there's a lot more stuff about our own human race that scare me and terrify me than some
I
other
agree.
outside source. So, but
I absolutely agree.
and now, but in your situation, this is what I always try to, picture, because I've heard a lot of stories, Britt. I've heard a
Mhm.
lot of stories, and I think, I always wonder, how did you feel? I mean, what really went off in your brain whenever you realized, when you saw this evidence, you saw these things that most people have never seen before in their life, and now you have to think, holy crap, there's life beings here. This is real.
I didn't. I thought, thank goodness there's somebody else besides us. Now it makes sense. It made more sense to me, because when you look at the night sky and all those beautiful sparkling orbs, how can you possibly think we're the only ones?
Oh
So
yeah.
to me, that just cemented, oh, wonderful. I'm really glad they're here.
And there's so many things too that, and I'm not even going to go down this road, but so many things that had to be perfect in order just for us to exist here, where we're at, which is,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I guess you can play the odds, and if something, if something is around long enough, it's bound to, if you sling enough poop on the wall, something's bound to stick. I get it. But to me, it just seems, you know, I don't think, I personally don't think that we would evolve to be able to question certain things if there wasn't a purpose for that wonder and for that. You understand
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I do.
So, I mean, we have hands for a reason. We have eyes for a reason. We have ears. So we have the ability to question our own existence for a reason. And if
Exactly.
so, I think that's very important. Um, what is your take like on what's going on right now? Because first of all, we live in crazy times right now, and it's pretty awesome that we do have some media outlets that take the UFO phenomenon very serious.
Yeah.
The first time, I never in a million years would have ever thought we'd had anybody testify in Congress,
Wasn't that
whistleblower,
wonderful? To a
and
degree. Yeah.
yeah, so all these things. But what is some of your opinion on some of these videos that's being captured? What's going on right now?
I think there's a lot going on, and all over the world. I mean, thankfully, those Navy fighter pilots brought that footage out, were open about it, discussed it. I think everybody owes them a big tip of the hat and a lot of gratitude. I was very disappointed in the hearings
Oh yeah.
because they just made it such a, oh, it's national security. We have to be afraid, blah, 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 blah. No, don't be afraid. Want to learn. If they were going to hurt us, don't you think they would have done it by now? I mean, this has been going on for eons, not just the last few months. So get real. Look at what you can learn from it
You
and
know,
move that way rather than being locked into the fear.
I've looked at this on a, I've looked at it on both sides. Like, I've watched a lot of these interviews, and yeah, I'm just like, if it, I mean, let's just say it was us, and we were doing some type of training, testing these new vehicle, some crazy drone or something.
Right.
Why would we put our own men and women in danger?
Exactly.
That would create, I mean, you don't know how these pilots are going to react. They may try to shoot it out
Yeah.
of the sky, and then what, it'd be very reckless attitude if it
Mhm.
was ours. And then, on the flip side, I was like, man, let's really hope it doesn't belong to Russia or China, because that would suck,
That's right. You do have to take that into
So I
consideration.
want it to
Yeah.
be aliens. I want it to be aliens. But it's mind blowing. It's because it is there, and we live in a day and age where everyone has a camera on them constantly. And I think we are getting, that's why we're getting so much footage. And now keep in mind, let's be honest, let's keep this on the skeptic side too. We're also
Sure.
getting a lot of bad stuff too.
Yeah, we get
Because
a lot of insects flying through the frame and they go, "Oh, UFO." Yeah.
a
Mhm.
UFO, or you
Yeah.
never know. We do live in a day and age where we strive for clicks and likes and views, and somebody like I've watched plenty of paranormal stuff, and probably the worst things ever you could do, folks, is try to it was a poltergeist and the cabinets open. I can fake that. That's the easiest thing to fake. Okay, and the camera just has to just be sitting at the right perfect angle. You
Yeah.
know so, I mean, but so you do have to weigh a lot of that stuff out. But just
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, but did you see the video footage? The lady got on the airplane, LaGuardia Airport, New York City.
I did.
Wow, that's all I
Yeah.
can say.
But do you know how much footage comes in from around airports? There is so much that we never see. In Mexico, we had a pilot call and say, "We have a problem because as I was coming into Mexico City, this is one of the largest cities in the world, he saw a craft come in. It hit the strut of his plane as the landing gear was coming down. They made it down safely, thank goodness. But when he got off and the engineers came out to look at that strut, they said that he was really lucky, that it was bent and twisted and it had to be struck by something hard and heavy. That's, just south of us with all these American tourists going down to enjoy Mexico City. So, yeah, there's so much going on. Sightings around Japan's main airport in Tokyo.
I would
Same
love
thing.
to hear that. Well, isn't there a famous case actually with two Japanese pilots
Yes, yes.
and
Uh-huh.
that saw something? And
And that was a commercial flight
oh man,
that they were reporting on. Yeah. And they were saying, "What is this? Is it American? Is it Russian? What is it?" They didn't know.
and there's so many stories that we never hear about. We
Yeah.
never hear about. Um, all right, she's back. Live light. She is back. Let's see. With all your experiences, do you think there is a main message from? I'm going to mess this up, guys. The Palladians,
Palladians, yes.
Palladians. At least we've got a name for them, and we're not calling them the Grays or the Blues. That's
Right.
racist. Here we go. What does humanity need to learn?
Ah, we need to learn, one, that we're not the only thinking beings out there, but we need to learn to balance The physical realities and the technical world in which we live, and the development of the spirit. That's according to the Pleiadians. They say we have to have more harmony with those two things, because if you're just dealing with the technical side of life, or just dealing with the, oh my gosh, my physical side of life, am I going to be able to pay the bills, and do I want to see that show or that movie? That is not a complete life. To them, the complete life has to include and spiritual isn't even really the right word, but it's a connection to creation, recognizing that creation exists within everything. And it's what sparks life within everything. And we're all a part of it. And we're all related. We're interrelated from the standpoint of that attachment to creation, not to make it a religion, because that's not what I'm talking about. But from the standpoint of all those, here we go again with another term that probably will need better definition, star seeds from past ancestry. So the individuals that came from other planets seeding this planet makes us all related. But we have to learn that that connection to creation is important, because it has to create the balance of everything that's around us, the physical as well as the spiritual, for lack of better terms.
That's a fantastic answer. Star seeds. I totally buy that. I've always been a big fan of the theory. This is something, because I tend to think a lot about this stuff, Brett. So, have you ever heard the theory that maybe the reason why we're here is like we were like planted, millions of years ago, and whatever planet is here flew off and come back every now and then to check on us to see how we're doing.
Exactly.
And that's kind of their job. They go all over the universe or the multiverse and seed planets with life.
But when you look through the history of different cultures, you find the Pleiades are primary. They're referred to as the seven sisters or the seven angels, the seven stars. Arcturus, Sirius, A and B, Zeta 1 and 2. What's the other one? Aldebaran. That's really all through history, all around the planet. And they're all talking about these beings that came from these places to help them improve, to give them some form of knowledge. But then they left so that we could develop on our own. And the Pleiadians told Billy that they think of us as their little brothers and sisters because, quote unquote, their forefathers were our forefathers. So they are saying that they were one of those groups seeding this planet.
Oh, wow. And so Billy, okay, so this is the information that, and after what you witnessed, you were on board full-fledged with this. I tell you what, Brett, this is very interesting. I want to get down some other avenues because, like I said, you have lived a very interesting life with the UFO phenomena. I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to cut over to take a quick break, give a shout out to our sponsors. We'll be right back, folks. We're Brett Elders.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property.
Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services.
Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, we are back here. If you guys are just now tuning in, we are here with investigative author Brit Elders. All right, Brit, this has been extremely interesting so far. Very interesting. But you have done a lot of cool stuff. You've been to a lot of cool places. I do want to ask you this because we were talking earlier before the break, kind of how, the arrogancy, as all humans can be, but you have been all over the planet. In America, there is this, UFOs aren't real. This is all make-believe, ha, ha, ha. For years, that's how it has been. But like you mentioned Japan, you mentioned Mexico, some other places in the world. What's kind of like their take? I mean, is it the same type of arrogancy?
No, not at all. Headset. Hang on.
There we go.
Yeah, I forgot this. Okay, no, it's very different. In Japan, people are very open to it. They have game shows about it. They talk about it on TV. It's not a big deal. They're curious. But then they have a culture that believes they came from the other side of the sun. So, and the same with the Chinese. The Chinese actually had a state-run magazine about UFOs years ago, where people could just pick it up on the street, and it had images that were taken in China, old images, new images, people's reports, things like that. Brazil, the same thing. The Brazilian government, very creative. They set up something like what we did here in the US, and they took it a different direction. Rather than taking in these reports and then saying, we can basically explain everything, they took the reports, put them out there for the public so the public could read them. Mexico, oh my gosh, it's remarkable what's going on down there. Has been since 1991, hasn't stopped. Still going on. It's constant.
Which
Ecuador.
is so wild to me because it's when it comes to the UFO phenomenon, it's not open borders.
Yeah.
It's very segregated throughout the world, you know.
Yeah.
So it would be very easy to think that it's just a United States thing.
It's not. It is worldwide. Literally worldwide. South Africa, we get reports from them all the time.
Oh yeah, the Zimbabwe was it the Zimbabwe school or
yeah, but that happens all over. It's happened in other places away. Malaysia, they had a school full of sightings, kids coming out and seeing this thing and then going back in the classroom and drawing it. So yeah, it's all over the place. And we can't limit ourselves as curious humans, which we should be. We can't limit ourselves to saying, oh, it's just here and no place else. So it's a phenomenon that only appears in one area. It's everywhere.
You know, why is it though? It seems like the United States government has the say so over the whole thing. You know, it's like how come the Chinese government's like, no, hey guys, they're real, or the Russian government, you know, how come Russia? No, they're real, despite what you guys say in Congress, you know. I just wonder why. What's going on there?
I think part of that has to do with the fact that for so long, the United States was respected because we were the front runners in technology. We were the front runners in rocketry. We were the front runners in everything. We had our competition going with the Soviet Union. We had our competition going with China on other things. But still, people look to us because we came up with the ideas and we spurred them forward. We wanted them to really produce good things. So the world looked to us. That's no longer the case. Now it's all over the globe. And we can't just expect the world to look to the US for answers. Everybody's really got to look within for answers, because until you look up, in fact, I just wrote an article on this, you got to take the time to look up. But until you do, and you have an experience, you won't totally believe it. Even if you want to believe it, until that experience is yours to own, it's just a story.
That's so true. You know, I saw a UFO probably going now on 4 or 5 months ago. Very new. Very new. First time in my whole life. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a UFO. And I always used to say, I've never seen one, but I believe in them. You know, I would say this.
Yeah.
And, it was the strangest damn thing. I was driving down the road, broad daylight, and guess what I did? I just happened to look up. You know?
Exactly.
And I looked up, and it was a cylinder-shaped type object, and it was moving on by. And the thing that was really uncanny about it, because I saw it, I was like, what the hell is that? Because it seemed like too high up to be a drone, and it was too low to be a plane. It definitely wasn't a plane. It was just a cylinder type object, and it was moving. Right. But the thing that was uncanny about it was the nonchalantness of it, I'm here. You're like, it's just one of these things flying in the sky.
You just got to look up.
And I was like, holy crap. And I looked around, and then I immediately got my phone out. Okay. And I fell into a Bigfoot moment here, because I got my phone out. I took a picture, and like an idiot, I only got like a blurry glimpse of the dashboard, you know? So I was like, okay, I'm going to wreck. I need to, you know, but I didn't get a picture. I didn't even get a picture. So but I saw it. I don't know what the hell it was, but by then it was gone. You know, it was gone. But I don't know. But I saw it. But then it made me think, though. I was like, you know, how often you may think you look up a lot, but really,
Yeah.
you know, but come on, do you
Mhm.
really? You know, so no telling what we miss. You know
Well,
what I'm
that's
saying?
really true. Some of these cultures that we consider backwards, they're a little more forward than we are because they're not as rushed. They're not as hectic. They don't have a day that goes 24 hours. They take the time to look up. They take the time to enjoy what's around them, whether it's nature or the heavens. They enjoy that. We are too busy. We don't take a breath to enjoy the life we have.
Gosh,
And
we
we
don't.
need to do that.
American culture, especially, I mean, we work, work, work. We're all about making money, making money,
Yeah.
making. So we're constantly, you know, that I've been saying that, you know, a lot of places all over the world, other countries, they've got, you know, things better figured out than we do.
Yeah,
Especially
it's true.
when it comes to that. The so did Japan? Have you been to Japan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, okay, that's right, that's right. And you said they would do. No, it was China that did the magazines.
China did the magazine.
Gotcha.
Japan has done a lot of books on UFOs. They have television shows all the time on the subject. They bring footage in from all around the world and they share it with the population. So they're
Do
open
you think?
minded.
Okay, this is something I was thinking about because this is what in kind of what I'm gathering about what's going on right now.
Uh-huh.
I think they are letting us in slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the techniques for breaking the news to somebody, but breaking the news slowly to them, is you present the truth, and if it starts getting too fast, you throw in some bullshit to slow it down.
Slow it down. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because one of the worst things you can do, this is not a good thing to do, folks, by the way, but we all do it, is when we hear some credible evidence and we're like, wow, this is great. Then a non-credible idiot pops up and says something completely wrong that you know is wrong. Then people say, well, it all must be BS. And
Exactly.
that is not that is not real. That's not reality. Okay. But that's the technique that I feel like they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we get some great evidence, something real, the truth, and then here comes BS. Boom. Because if we get moving too fast, we got to slow it down a little bit.
Yes. I
Now,
think you're absolutely right.
I used to wonder, why are they doing this?
Uh-huh.
And why not just rip the Band-Aid off? Why not just you know, let us all know these things? And well, I think there's a lot of reasons. And with you being around the world, I think a lot of cultures are more in depth with it, but there's also some cultures that I think religion
Plays a big role in keeping it back. Yes.
absolutely. And I'm not just picking on Christianity. I'm talking about, you know, you have
All
other religions, you know, that are fighting in the world right now, you know.
Right.
So how would they react to something like that?
Well, another thing, think of what would happen to the stock market.
Oh, absolutely. The economy.
If we had a mass landing all around the world right now, what on earth would the stock market and the entire monetary system that drives this planet, what would it do? It would collapse.
That would destroy us before any alien life form would.
Exactly.
And so it could wreck the economy. It could, I mean, there's so many things that could happen, you know, if it just happened all at once. Because,
Yeah.
and I know people like to walk around, well, I wouldn't act that way. But sorry, though, the human race that you're a part of, you know, we stink, remember? They would totally, you know, screw it up. Trust me. They would totally
Very
screw it up. But anyways, I think that's the purpose for the kind of slowness that they're doing. I mean, it's just something I thought of. But we got another question from Live Light. Hey, by the way, I see you guys over here in the comment section. Lisa, how you doing? Alien Girl 111. I love that name. Super cool name. And let's see. I see somebody else. I got to move around. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Let me see. One more. Is there any more? There is some more, but it's not moving. Anyways, guys, come out with your questions because Liv Light's like the LeBron James of questions here. She's
great.
You guys need to pop in with some of your questions, because Liv's killing it. I know y'all got some good questions for Brit, but here we go. Liv asks, Shirley MacLaine was very brave with her Out on a Limb book with discussing aliens in the 80s. She wrote the foreword in your book, UFO, Contact for the, say it.
From the Pleiades, yes.
The Pleiades. Did she influence your research? Great question, Liv.
No, she didn't. In fact, we influenced hers. We're the ones that took her to Switzerland to meet with Meier. And Meier was one of the 3 individuals that were contactees that she met with to create the composite character David for Out on a Limb. Some of the experiences that she had with Meier translated both to the book and to the film. She's an amazing woman. She's a question machine. When she sat down with Meier, she had a tape recorder in his face every second they were together and just bombarding him with questions. He was so polite and so gracious and just answered everything. He hid nothing. It was really wonderful to see. It was great. We were over there with her. She was there 5 days. And it was really fascinating to see how Billy responded to her. He didn't know she was a movie star, and he really didn't care. And it was so cute that way. And she was just Shirley, the Shirley that I know and love, just this intense mind that is constantly probing and looking for answers. Yeah, it's really something. She's a terrific woman, took a lot of courage to do what she did, because even though we brought our book out in 78 and she came out with Out on a Limb in the 80s, she has been studying this her whole life. When she was a kid, she wanted a telescope to know what else was out there. So her interest has always been in the subject. She goes so far with it. She's not doing any of the television programs or anything like that. She's busy doing what she does. She's 90 years old and making movies. So she's having a great time doing that. But she is quite an amazing woman. Very dear friend.
Kat Kramer says over in the comments, Out on a Limb changed my life. So
yeah.
Wow.
It did for a lot of people. It opened the door. And I constantly have to remind Shirley of that, because she doesn't think she's done enough. And I said, look, you opened the door and let everybody else kick it in. And that's a good way to go.
Very cool. Very cool. So what do you think? Okay, you've seen a lot of stuff, right? What do you think about have you seen the jellyfish video?
I've seen the video. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that.
I can't imagine it.
Yeah. I don't know. Why not though?
Well, when I first saw it, I could see the skeptic where people say, "Oh, it's a smudge," or a bird crapped on a lens,
right?
And I get to see it, but then the more you watch the video, no, that thing is moving. That is not a smudge. That thing is moving, and it's such a weird, odd shape of, but I mean,
with strange movement. Yeah,
with strange movement. And it goes back to well, then, something alien doesn't mean it has to look familiar to my imagination. It's something I've never can imagine. So,
but that's where we have to expand, Danny. That's where we've got to. That's what makes our society so great, is we can think and go, oh, wow, maybe that is, and then take it from there and make it bigger and learn from it. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what else is in it? I did just a little tiny bit of research. That's not the first time a jellyfish type UFO has been spotted.
That's right.
So, and that's the thing, is like, there's so much information out there if people just go looking a little bit.
A thing that I would love to suggest, and I think we as a society of this planet need it. We need a repository where people can tell their stories, show their videos, explain everything. We don't have that now. Yes. I don't trust sending stuff into the government to take care of.
Oh, no, you don't do that.
No, but put it out there so that people can compare and can read and can learn and expand their mind and their heart and figure out that there's a lot going on all over the world. Hopefully within the next couple of years, that can be put together and people really can share more videos like this, old and new, so we can all learn about it.
And that's one thing I always want to stress here at Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. This is a safe place for people to come share their stories, talk about, no matter how wild it may sound, this is the, this is a place. And I think that is important. It's still kind of scary because even though it's gotten a lot better as far as people will be able to come forward and say these things, now that's one of the good things about YouTube and the internet and stuff. We're connected when it comes to those things. So it has gotten a lot better, but still on the flip side, it's still very scrutinized. You do have to be careful. Now we do got a question down here. Can we get it on the screen? I don't want to mess your name up. There we go. Right here. Cabe Tamba. If I messed up your name, Tamba, I'm sorry, but I apologize. Here's your question. During all your investigations, have you ever experienced an encounter personally?
No, I have seen ships. I've seen craft I can't identify day and night, but I have never had a personal encounter with an extraterrestrial that I'm aware of. Gotcha. I do have missing time.
Gotcha.
So
well, you never know.
Several hours of missing time. Yeah. So I don't know what happened then. But yes, that's as far as I know, I've not had a face-to-face.
That's where I am. Like, I did see the UFO a few months back, but as far as them coming down and us hanging out playing pinochle, no, that has not happened. But I'm down for it. I'm totally down.
Absolutely.
Just don't hurt me or be gentle. So, but I think the great question, by the way. Thank you so much. That was a fantastic question. And see, that's the other thing I think though makes you authentic, Brent. I think that makes you believable. I think that makes everything that you say, more credible because, a tendency that people like to do when they do make up stories is, they over embellish, well, yeah, not only did I see this, but, and it can get pretty, out there. So I love the way that you do approach it with, well, I feel like you guys even did the scientific method on trying to debunk it, on the first time you saw.
Well, you have to. When you're an investigator, you've got to try.
Absolutely.
And you got to try to duplicate it. Yes.
Absolutely.
But then you have that other side that is just, the investigative side is wonderful because that's a constant digging and curiosity going. The other side is this wonderment of, oh my gosh, are we not alone? It's out there, really? Yeah, that's important.
But that's a struggle because it is, because I get it too. Don't get me wrong. Whenever you're, because without that wonder, and I'm a magician, so I specialize in wonder. Okay, without that wonder, life can be pretty bland.
Yeah,
it can be pretty bland. So, but also though, I've looked into enough stuff to where I'm like, I don't feel like I have the answer. Like I know anything, but I do know that I don't know. You get what I mean? So I do know that I don't know everything, just based off. And now, have you heard the theory like interdimension? How do you feel about that? Like interdimensional beings, are they coming here through other means of travel than 57 Ford?
I think so. Just from what we've researched, I think that you have interdimensional beings, you have energetic beings. In Mexico, we talked to a man that had contact with plasma type craft that just undulated and moved, and so all kinds.
There's just, and what is it about Mexico? Because this is not the first time I've heard this about Mexico. We had a guest on that actually they went to the pyramids there and had interaction. So What's your take on that? Now, here's the thing. Now, I don't know where I stand with the pyramids because I haven't really dug that deep in the information. The ones in Egypt or even the ones in Mexico, but at the same time, I would be open to thinking that there was an outside extraterrestrial source. Okay. But I also, on the flip side, I don't want to. I don't want to take credit away from us, from the human race. You know,
I think they might have been inspired. I'm not sure they built everything, but I think they helped inspire it.
I mean, you know, because there's a lot of amazing stuff about those things. You know.
Yeah.
Now, you know how you mentioned Mexico City. And like Mexico City, a little fun fact, folks, Mexico City is sinking as we speak. It's like, what is it? So many inches a year. I believe the Mexico City is sinking there. Sorry there, Brit. Yeah, you go get you something to drink.
Allergies. Sorry.
Absolutely. You got allergies there too. That's a bummer. Oh man, I was hoping to move there one day to get away from this bowl of pollen that I live in.
No, that doesn't happen.
Not getting away from it. Okay.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's you know, what do you think?
Wow. Mexico, I think a lot of it has to do with the people. They are receptive to miracles. They're basically all Catholic. They expect miracles, you know. They don't have a problem with a UFO. To them, it's a miracle. It's there. It's real, not a question. So I think a lot of the activity comes from the attraction of the people. They're curious. We're not so curious.
Well, you know, I wondered, like, you know, like Mexico City was built on top of an ancient city. In Mexico. And I wonder if there was some type of attraction there with UFOs and the rich, you know, history in Mexico. You know, that's definitely, you know, been a thought.
It's all there in all of their cultures, all the way up and down South America and even across North America, Canada, all of the cultures.
Now,
excuse me.
You're fine. Everywhere that you have been to, what country do you feel was the most, what surprised you the most with the UFO culture?
Oh, boy.
A tough one. Danny comes out with the tough question, folks. There we go, Liv. I got some too, Liv. I can get some questions.
Ecuador.
Yeah. Interesting.
Excuse me.
You're fine. There we go. Those darn allergies. You're fine. Bless you. That's what we say here in Southern Appalachia. Bless you, Brit.
Thank you. Ecuador, I didn't expect people to be so open, especially in the indigenous cultures, because they're still rather backwards in a lot of ways. They had no problems. Sure, we have brothers from the stars. We'll wait for them to come back. They have a totally different attitude. So Ecuador surprised me, I think, more than anyone.
So with what you're doing right now with your investigating, where are you going? What's in the future for you guys?
Oh, boy. Good question. I'm not really sure. I sort of let life lead me. That's been my motto throughout life, and it always takes me in the right direction. So as a writer, I have a lot of projects coming up in the future, but on investigations, wherever it takes me.
So you just kind of go with the flow with it, huh?
Yeah, I call it not going with the flow, but flowing with the go.
Flowing with the go.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. So, I mean, now and also with everything that's coming out, it seems like we do live in exciting times for
Yeah,
this topic.
absolutely.
So there's constantly new things coming out. Now, have you seen anything of lately that you kind of like may have been skeptic on? Maybe like, I don't know about that. Remember how we talked about they throw truth and then they throw BS? Have you
Yes,
seen any BS?
I have. And I wouldn't call it BS. I would call it something that I really question. And it would make me want to dig into it much deeper than just a surface, armchair analysis type thing. I've seen a couple of videos lately that, I mean, they rank up there with the too good to be true category. And with the technology we have today, I always wonder about what's going to happen with AI.
Yes.
Can
Yes.
AI make a UFO land on the White House lawn and an individual get out and declare, I'm here from such and such? How can we tell the difference from now on between things like AI and the real deal? So
And,
as an investigator, I sort of look at that too.
see that it and the longer we exist, the longer we keep going down the field that we're going, the road that we're going down,
Uh-huh.
it's only going to become more difficult to
Yes.
tell the real from the fake
Yeah.
or from, and AI is only going to get better. And we're seeing it just in the past 3 or 4 years,
Yes.
how rapid, and I don't like it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't like it at all. And
I don't
yes, it's because
either.
I don't understand it completely. Yes, but
I feel
also
manipulated by it, and I don't appreciate that.
exactly, I don't
I
like that
want
either.
things to be real, to be whatever they are, good, bad, and different. I don't care, but be real. Yeah.
Let's get another real interesting question popped up here by Live Light. As a writer, have you ever experienced automatic writing?
I
Kind of
have
like,
not, but I think that would be fascinating. I know people that have, and I've worked with people that have, but I've never had that experience. I do it differently. I will, if I'm working on a project that I'm really attached to, I dream about it and get up in the morning and it's all just right there. So it all comes through, but it comes through my dreams.
so I've heard that too. That's kind of quite common,
Yeah.
especially with people who are open. It's kind of
Mhm.
whose windows are open, especially to this phenomenon that a lot of things comes through dreams. Now, do you keep like a journal next to your bed as soon as you wake up?
Do. I
Okay.
absolutely do. Yeah, I think dreams are important because they kind of are a mirror to ourselves and they can teach us so much about ourselves if we just take the time to look at them, not take the normal stand of, oh, I packed a suitcase in my dream. This means blah, blah, blah. But really unpack it and unfold it for yourself. Find out what that really resonates within you. I think dreams can tell you a lot about yourself.
Oh yeah, 100%. I believe that 100%. Also, I'm a fan of. I mean, I haven't done hardly any of it lately, but any type of like exercise, physical activity. I think afterwards, the calm down where your body's coming back down. I think a
Hmm.
lot of things are happening up here too.
Yeah,
So and it's good to maybe keep a journal or something with you afterwards to maybe record some thoughts. Um,
definitely. I have
so
notebooks all over the house because I'll think of something and I don't want to miss that thought. It's too valuable. So I scribble all the time. But yeah, and go out and walk afterwards, connect with nature. It really sparks it.
big time, big
Yeah.
time. So you mentioned that one race of aliens. How
Right.
do you feel about some of the others?
Well,
And what do you know about some of the others? Do you know anything?
I've talked to a lot of people that have claimed contact with other races, um, some abductees that have gone through really rough experiences, some abductees that have had experiences that once they thought about it, they sort of opened the door themselves instead of being so afraid by the end of the discussion. They were thinking, wow, I got out of my car and walked right up to that thing. So yeah, I was curious,
What
and
do you,
my curiosity drove me.
what do you think the purpose is for alien abductions?
Mm,
Why do they keep doing this? What this phenomenon, and this is another thing, and I've even went down the yes, I'm familiar with sleep paralysis. Yes, yes,
right.
and in the physical world, yes, that might be what is going on to the body is sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
But there's something else on inside of the brain that is causing these people to have the exact same type of experiences.
Right.
So there's something is happening. What's your opinion?
I have kind of a weird view on that, and I know a lot won't agree with me, but um, if you look at how we treat each other and how we treat animals and how we treat plants on this planet, if you were coming in from another planet somewhere out there and you watched us dissecting each other, dissecting the animals, trying to learn about them, you would think that's normal, that it's okay. So why wouldn't they do these strange abductions and put these people and these individuals through tests and prod them and poke them? We're doing it to each other all the time.
So basically, they're just not emotionally connected
I
to
don't think
us.
so.
Like if we go fishing and we catch a fish, the fish is going back down there and saying, "No, you won't believe what just happened."
Exactly.
So I mean, maybe
Uh-huh.
that's true. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why. Maybe, um, but well, the race of beings that you spoke of seemed peaceful and had
Uh-huh.
a great story. But are
Yes,
all of them?
I don't think so. I think just like on this planet, we have, lack of better terms, good and bad. You have good and evil. I think you probably have the same thing throughout the universe. And I think it's up to us to be knowledgeable to that fact, but to be discerning and to not maybe think with the head and think, oh, this is going to be a great experience. I'm going to go talk to that big giant lizard over there. No, maybe pull back and think with your heart and feel into the experience and make the determination if you would want to carry that further, just like you do with people. When you meet people, you either like them or there's kind of a maybe not. Do the same thing with anything you're involved with. That's moving with your heart, and you can move forward in good ways that way and not set yourself up for trouble.
So where can Well, okay. Well, let's get right in with some of the stuff more about you, Brett. Is where can we find your book? Find the so we want to catch you on film. We want to follow you. See what else. Where do we go? What do we need to do?
I have a Facebook page, Brit Elders author, Brit Elders, and I have a page set up just for contact from the Pleiades. My website is britelders.com. That's one T in Brit. You can find out all the places you can buy the book there. It's available online and at booksellers everywhere. Coming out with a new documentary. It's actually a very old documentary, but we're releasing it the end of this month. It's called UFO Contact from the Pleiades, a documentary film. We filmed it in 1982. It takes you right to the scene of Meier's farm, goes through aspects of the investigation that we couldn't include in the book. It takes a much more in-depth view through everything that we did over there and the work in the analysis of all of the material evidence. So it's coming out. I'm really excited about all this stuff happening because it's been a long time and it's now being well received. I think there's a young generation that has got a more open mind than we did back in the 70s,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're curious. Thank goodness they're curious and they're thinking, and that's a great thing.
Well, I mean, when you got to think back in 1982, this wasn't. I mean, you didn't even have access to any of these stories. It was so difficult
It was.
to even to know any of this.
It was a
Um,
little tiny clique of people that
yeah.
had access to this, but now we can all do it.
These were, yeah. So what do, okay, well, is it going to be, do you know what streaming, is it going to be on streaming services or?
It will be eventually. Initially, it's coming out on DVD.
Okay. Okay. And they can be picked up at your website?
It'll be on Amazon and probably at other booksellers as well. Definitely through Beyond Words, the publisher. Yeah. So
And
you can find out where to get it on my website, I'm sure.